Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will. It's about time, all right? It's about time. Zach Thomas, okay? Zach Thomas, the former 13-year veteran middle linebacker of the NFL, 12-year Miami Dolphin, okay? Has been elected into the Hall of Fame, all right? So Canton will have a headstone of Mr. Zach Thomas, right? Zach Thomas will go in with other notable athletes or football players, actually, like Rondé Barber, Darrell Rivas, Joe Thomas, and DeMarcus Ware. Just a little bit about Zach Thomas. I know I've gone over his numbers before, especially last year when they argued he should have gotten in last year to begin with. But let's go over this again. Okay, Zach Thomas played in 184 total games in the NFL. He finished his career with 1,734 total tackles, 1,107 solo tackles, 17 career interceptions, and 16 forced fumbles. Okay, he was a stud. He was a fifth-round pick in 1996. He was a stud, actually, coming out of Texas Tech. Fifth-round pick because he was undersized for his linebacker position. Was defensive player of the year for Texas Tech. Ends up in the Miami Dolphins and wins rookie defensive player of the year for the Miami Dolphins. And the rest is history. My personal opinion. Zach Thomas is the best line. No disrespect to Nick Buoniconti and John Offerto and those guys, but I think Zach Thomas, at least from what I've seen, is the greatest linebacker in the history of the Miami Dolphins, bar none. Okay, in terms of pass coverage, you didn't pass coverage. In terms of stopping the run, chasing down quarterbacks, forcing turnovers, Zach was a phenomenal football player and was a true football player as well. What I mean by true football player is that he loved the sport. Wasn't just, a guy who took in plays. He also called plays on defense. He was the captain of that defense under Jimmy Johnson and then Dave Wanstead, as well. One of the things I wanted to share with you is that I was listening and watching, Hawk and Crowder today, which is on WQAM, which is our show's buddy here. Alejandro Solana is the producer of that show. Channing Crowder, who used to play for the Miami Dolphins, was a third-round pick coming out of Florida. One thing I like about athletes, and I like having them on here, is because they're great storytellers. Okay, they really know how to engage an audience in what they want those football players. And us as fans, we watch these guys on TV, but we really don't know what they do, in their personal time. And the fact that they let us in, especially retired veterans, that they let us in and tell stories is something that, I as a fan myself, I really gravitate towards. Okay, like Channing Crowder, Joe Rose, Leon Searcy, when he was on this podcast, was great in telling stories of his time at the University of Miami and also in the NFL. But one thing Channing Crowder did mention is, which actually is very impressive about Zach Thomas, is that the humility that Zach Thomas had and the willingness to teach younger linebackers how to play in the NFL and how to have a healthy career in the NFL. What I mean by that is that you hear stories all the time about professional football players, and I understand it, that when a young replacement gets drafted, you get the veteran athlete who's been successful throughout their career, kind of not willing to help his replacement one day take his position, all right? As far as whatever that could be, it could be quarterback, could be linebacker, could be running back, doesn't really matter, wide receiver, doesn't really matter, but you do hear stories like that, all the time. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm a big fan of Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a quarterback, but he was very, 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 very open about not wanting to coach Jordan Love, as far as his replacement when he ever decides to hang it up or leave the Packers altogether. But Channing Crowder said that Zach Thomas was always willing to teach him, the game of football at the pro level. Channing, obviously, his father being a former NFL athlete, him, playing at a Power 5 school in the SEC, he knows the game of football, but the NFL is a whole different animal. And Zach was pretty instrumental in teaching him, the game itself, like stories like, oh no, don't shoot your gap. Zach Thomas says, basically trust your instincts, shoot your gap. Don't worry about what the coach says. Just make the play if you think you can make the play. When Zach was injured, let's say with a concussion, he was the first one to give Channing Crowder a playbook, or at least a strategic playbook of the opponent that they're facing for that week, to get Channing prepared on what to watch for in terms of the quarterback, the running back, protection schemes by the opposing football team in general. So those are things that Zach was very good at sharing with Channing Crowder. The one story that really caught my attention, that Channing told that story was the fact that Peyton Manning, whenever they played the Dolphins, always felt freaked out, playing the Dolphin defense because Zach Thomas, in many cases, had already memorized a lot of the audibles and calls that Peyton Manning was calling when he was with the Colts, which meant that whatever play, Peyton was calling, not all of them obviously, but many of those plays, Zach was able to illustrate tell his defense to get ready for, let's say, a run, a pass, a short pass, a deep ball, or run up the middle, running towards the edges, etc. So that's what I'm talking about. Zach Thomas. Zach Thomas wasn't just a football player, who received instruction. Zach Thomas was like a coach, a linebacker coach, a defensive coordinator on the field, and that's what makes him unique. That's why guys like Brian Urlacher, who had a hell of a career, for the Chicago Bears, felt that Zach should have joined him in Canton, when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Okay, that's the respect that Zach Thomas has, in the NFL. So congratulations to Zach Thomas. I mean, as a Dolphin fan, I'm very happy. It's about time, that he gets into the Hall of Fame. It's very well deserved. He not only has the respect of the fan base, but also the respect of his peers, respect of coaches as well, respect of the media. The media also covered, as I remember, they covered Zach Thomas quite fondly. Not to the extent that they did Ray Lewis, but they were very, like, a lot of guys, they always had nice things to say about Zach Thomas. Okay, not a bad thing or even a flaw to his game that I could recall, as well. Again, great hitter, as I mentioned, great at stopping the run, great at chasing down quarterbacks. He could pick you off if you make a mistake in coverage, throwing the football. So those are things that I really enjoyed hearing about Zach Thomas. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, before I let you guys go, just want to go over one more thing. I will be doing an episode tomorrow. I will be talking about the snubs in the Hall of Fame of current Hurricane, or actually not current Hurricanes, but former Miami Hurricanes like Reggie Wayne and Devin Hester and Andre Johnson that did not get into the Hall of Fame this time around. Okay, so I'll be talking about, their stats and why I feel that, they should get definitely another opportunity or should have at least one out of the three. Either Devin Hester, Wayne, or Johnson should have been, in this class's Hall of Fame versus having to wait maybe another year or two to get into the Hall itself. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Okay, and let's not forget, guys, remember, we're this close. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers, right? 1,000 subscribers. So share my videos, word of mouth. All right, and do not forget to, and please, if you're listening to me for the first time, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports Now. I am Will. Stay safe. God bless. See you soon. Go Fins. And once again, congratulations, Zach Thomas.